Over the last week, there's been two prominent instances where Protect Black Women, Defend Black Women has been on display on the global stage. The first was like a week ago when Senator from New Jersey, Cory Booker, defended soon-to-be Supreme Court Justice Ketanji Brown Jackson in front of a GOP onslaught of questioning during her confirmation hearing. And the second was last night when we saw Will Smith calmly walk up to the stage and slap the living hell out of Chris Rock for giving a distasteful joke about his wife, Jada Pinkett Smith. So in these instances, the first one has been applauded while the other one has very mixed reviews at the time of filming this video. So with that in mind, it had me thinking a few questions about Protect Black Women and what that actually meant. And I felt like we could talk about it here today and just learn from the collective wisdom of the community. With these two situations in mind, it got me thinking the following. What does Protect Black Women really mean? Like, what does that even really mean? Were these two men actually protecting Black women, or were we just seeing their egos on display and slightly unhinged? Should these two instances even be compared? Are they comparable? What does it feel like to be a protected Black woman? How would I have felt if I was Judge Ketanji versus how would I have felt if I was Jada Pinkett Smith? How does that actually feel to be a protected Black woman? And are Black women even okay with this type of protection, with this kind of defense of our honor? Are we okay with that? Does that feel good and right to us? Now, I don't profess to have all the answers to these questions at all. I just thought it would be interesting to bring it to the collective and for us to discuss it in the comments below and see if we can come to some sort of understanding or consensus or just ponder on this a bit more deeply. So by way of background, the Protect Black Women and the Defend Black Women movement really picked up traction recently with the following instances. In popular culture, one, you have Megan Thee Stallion allegedly being shot by Tory Lanez and her really getting the not good end of the stick and people not really believing her and her feeling like left out in the cold because of that. We also had, first and foremost, Breonna Taylor and the murder of her when the police just kicked in her door and killed her and, didn't even inform anybody of the situation was just all a whole big mess and not, what it needed to be. We're looking at record numbers of femicide and domestic violence and killing, particularly in the Black women community. Definitely related to all women, but, the numbers are looking grim for the Black community. Also looking at medical issues and women having a high mortality rate in giving birth to children and just the healthcare system. Also missing women. Whenever we're talking about a missing woman or even missing child report, when it is a woman of color, a Black woman, the story is not on the headlines as it is for other communities. So I feel like all of these things have been in the collective discussion for a while and really have put some momentum behind this Protect Black Women and Defend Black Women movement. I also feel like it has a lot to do with misogynoir, and you hear a lot of people talking about all of these men sitting on the internet and on podcasts denigrating Black women and trying to make a name for themselves and trying to capitalize off of disrespecting Black women, and that's pretty much the only way that they get any limelight. And so with all of those instances together, that is how I feel like the Protect the Black Women and Defend Black Women movement has really picked up steam, and how these two instances even came into my awareness to connect. So getting back into the specifics of the Will Smith, Chris Rock, Jada Pinkett Smith, and the Senator Cory Booker and Judge Ketanji Brown Jackson instances, I feel like these two instances are on a spectrum, with the Will side being on the, more negative side of the spectrum, and the Cory Booker side being on the more positive side of the spectrum. But still, we're looking at that defense of Black femininity, defense of, and I wouldn't even say defense of Black, we're still looking at the defense of Black women in both of those instances from a man's perspective. So we talked a little bit about the background of Protect Black Women. The second question that I was kind of pondering on that I think we should talk about a little bit was talking about, were these men actually protecting Black women, or was it just their ego on display? The reason why I say that is because of two phrases or things that the men said when they were in the midst of their heroic act. The first one was from Senator Cory Booker, who in front of the whole Senate, said that, Judge Ketanji was his harbinger of hope, and he was so happy to see her there, and that he would not let anyone steal his joy. And the conversation was really centered around these men, his other colleagues, these other white males not being able to steal his joy by disrespecting Judge Ketanji or asking her these nonsensical questions of this Harvard-educated, well-equipped, well-qualified woman. So a lot of the conversation really centered around his, how he felt in the situation and how he wasn't going to let them, steal his joy. Now, I will say that in my last live, I talked about how what Senator Cory did is what we need to see. We need to see men stepping up and defending Black women in all instances, not just in private and in public, not just from women and other men and situations, but from men who are sitting on the internet denigrating the women. You know what I mean? So I really was an advocate for Senator Booker and how he really held space for Judge Ketanji's glory. You know what I mean? Like, how amazing would that feel to be in this intense job interview, in this panel, this room full of these people who are really just there to see you sweat, and to have a man cover you that way, your brother, your colleague, somebody who is respectable and in the same, your peer group really cover you that way. Everybody would love to have that type of covering, and I don't feel there's anything wrong with it. And so I did talk about that in my last live, where I said, this is what we need to see from you guys. You know what I mean? This is what we need. You not only checking outsiders, but you need to check the old men in our community who are on top, who are with that misogynoir. You know what I mean? We need you to be the backbone of the community. And when you see weakest links perpetrating like their alphas, you need to call them out. You know what I mean? And so that was my opinion of Senator Booker. But his ego might have been on display with the whole, I'm not going to let you steal my joy. You know what I mean? Is it about your joy, Senator? Or is it about protecting Judge Ketanji and her integrity and her professional record? You know what I mean? And holding space for her. And you did do that. But there was a tinge of ego in there. So that's why I bring it to the question to the community, to the collective. On the Will Smith side of the instance, we know that, Chris Rock did a distasteful joke about Jada, and Jada, it was about her physicality. And I always find that very disgusting when men think it's in their lane to discuss a woman's looks or to ridicule a woman's looks. That's I don't feel that's in a man's lane. And so on this Oscar stage, he went up there and, compared her to G.I. Jane and, was ridiculing her bald head. And little did he know, he says he doesn't know, the woman has alopecia, which is an autoimmune disease that makes you lose your hair. So Will got in his emotions, and after chuckling at it a little bit, I guess realized that that was below the belt, and calmly walked up on stage and smacked the heck out of Chris Rock. And to everybody's shock, everybody was standing there like, is this a skit? Like, this can't be real. You know what I mean? And come to find out, it was dead real. The networks in the US paused the feed because it was a live Oscars show, produced by Will Packard, by the way, a Black man, and paused the show. And, we realized that it was real. The ego issue that came up with me, with Will, was his statement, keep my wife's name out of your effing mouth. He screamed that to Chris after he smacked him, walked back to his seat, sat down, and Chris said, dude, over a G.I. Joe joke, and Will said, keep my wife's name out of your effing mouth. For me, as I said, where the ego comes in is like, it was a defense of your wife, or was it a defense of like your integrity as a man because he was disrespecting your wife? There was a tinge of ego there for me. And, while I do agree with the protect Black women, defend Black women, and to defend the integrity of your family and your wife, there is something to be said about, the patriarchy and a male's ego in that instance. And does that really serve the defense of a woman, or is it really more serving the man's ego? And I think we should think about that a little bit. The other question that I have here is, should these two instances even be compared? In my mind, I immediately saw them as comparable because it was both instances of protect Black women, defend Black women, but they were on a little bit of on the spectrum, on opposite ends of the spectrum. And so I have not seen a lot of people discuss this online. And so I said, you know what, let me put a video together and let us talk about it, and let us pull our view up to the 10,000 foot level and really look at the commonalities and the differences between these two instances. And I feel like I encourage you guys to chime in the comments. I don't profess, as I said earlier, to know and have all the answers. I'm just here to be, open up the floodgates and have us discuss it. But can these two instances even be compared? And to me, in my mind, they can be, and they are on the same spectrum. And, just potentially on the different levels of respectability and respectability politics, if you know what I mean by that. So what does it feel like to be a protected Black woman? How would you have felt if you were Judge Ketanji versus how would you have felt if you were Jada Pinkett Smith? So in Judge Ketanji's situation, if you ever worked in corporate or even just any office setting or any professional, setting like that, you know what it is to have to bite your tongue as a Black woman, even a woman in general. You know what it is to have people question your authority. I'm going through that right now at work when people are questioning your authority. They don't even know that they have unconscious biases, and they don't take what you have to say as the final word or as the authority. They don't make room for you to be a true leader on the team. And so it would be amazing. I would be feel amazingly supported if I had a man like Senator Cory Booker come and, set the record straight in front of a Senate hearing and let them know that there is no way that you guys are going to take her credentials from her. She is deserving. She is, more than deserving of this opportunity. And to be fair, it doesn't have to be a man to do that, but it is nice to have that balance and to have that authority. In the workplace, men do have more authority than women sometimes. And so to have somebody step in on your behalf, whether it be a man or a woman, is amazing. Whether it be a Black man or a white man or an Asian man or whatever type of man, it is nice to have that support. And it was beautiful to see that on a stage when sometimes the media and things portray a black male and Black female relationship as, not something to be, admired. And in that instance, I was admiring how the senator, showed up for the judge and really reinforced to her and spoke life over her as she continued on with her confirmation hearing. So I would feel really good if I was Judge Ketanji in that instance. To the contrary, Jada Pinkett Smith, I know that she felt a little bit annoyed. I mean, if I was her, I would be annoyed and disrespected from Chris Rock's joke. Why does he have to stand up on stage in front of all of these people and make, this prominent Black couple the butt of the joke? So I know there was some annoyance there. And to be fair, they're probably used to that type of scrutiny, but that doesn't mean that they're not human and that they should somehow swallow the pill and not feel it. And so I know that she felt a little humiliated and was struggling with hair. Black women and their hair, that is a huge issue. And Chris Rock should have known that because he did that pseudo documentary, Good Hair, or whatever you call it. And so he knows how touchy and temperamental we are about our locks. You know what I mean? And so I know Jada probably was embarrassed, even though she looked gorgeous in that emerald dress, just drop dead gorgeous. And so we did not see the instance where Will went from laughing at the joke There is a delay in production, right? So we don't know if he was laughing or when he immediately, went unhinged and went up and boxed Chris Rock across the face. But if I was Jada, I don't know if I would have, stopped him. I've seen a lot of commentary about people saying, "Oh, Jada should have stopped Will, or she should have jumped on his back, a grown man's back, and had him stop." I'm like, that's her husband. This is a self-governed, accountable, established, wealthy gentleman. You know what I mean? She's not gonna, women don't jump down their man's back to try to stop them from doing things because their man's behavior and self-governance and, authority and accountability is usually established. So she probably did not know that he was going to go up there and smack the living hell out of Rock. Maybe she thought he was going to drape him up or make a joke about it or whisper something in his ear. That's initially what I thought he was going to do. I thought he was going to whisper a threat in his ear. But instead, once he got up there, he decided to let the dynamite fly and whop, right across Chris Rock's face. So if I was Jada, I definitely would have felt a tinge of embarrassment and like, damn, I wish he didn't do that. But, also she probably felt like apathy for Chris Rock. Like, bruh, keep my name out your mouth. Let's stop running your mouth. You know what I mean? And so, I feel like Jada probably felt on both sides of the spectrum in that instance. And she probably felt like how all of us felt, mixed emotions. So many people were for Will and was like, damn, let's not judge one instance of this unhingedness as his whole character. And, Chris Rock was wrong for speaking on that man's wife. And they've been going through it for years because of the entanglement issue with Jason and with Jada and August Alsina. And that Will has been being humiliated from so many instances. And so Chris Rock just was the straw that broke the camel's back. And people were defending him that way. And then on the other side, people were defending Chris Rock and saying how professional he was to be able to continue to deliver the documentary award, which Questlove's documentary run, by the way. And that even though he got boxed across his face, he was still able to hold it together. And then some folks say they both need to apologize to each other. And so, we have everybody on both sides of the spectrum in that particular instance. But the consensus for the Cory Booker, Judge Ketanji situation is that Cory Booker really did justice and spoke life into the judge. And so that's really a positive situation when we're looking at this Protect Black Women, Defend Black Women movement. The last question I have here for us to ponder and to think about is, are Black women really okay and comfortable with this type of protection and with our honor being defended in this way? On one side of the spectrum, some women are going to say, I don't need a man to defend me. I don't need, anyone to defend me. I can defend myself. I'm a strong woman. I'm an independent woman, or whatever, however they want to describe it. And on the other side of the spectrum, folks are going to say, well, the way that Cory did it was respectable, and proper. And so I'm okay with that, versus the way Will did it was violent and unhinged. And I'm uncomfortable with that. I've even seen some women say, Jada must have put it on Will when they got home because some women find that display of testosterone and masculine aggression and adrenaline attractive. You know what I mean? And so some women was like, yup, that's street code. That's how I go. Chris Rock should have known better. He from Brooklyn. Will is from West Philadelphia. Jada's from Baltimore. So they know how I go. Now, I don't think that display on that particular stage was something that I would be like turned on by. But there are plenty of women and, other people that see it as a normal, alpha male, beta male interaction over, the defending the honor of a damsel. I'm not going to say in distress, but like a beautiful woman, and his wife, to say the least. And so are we comfortable? So are women comfortable? Are Black women comfortable with those types of protection? When you are out in the streets or wherever and you're professing to protect, you want us to protect Black women and you want us to defend Black women, do you get to decide do you get to, distinguish or specify what type of defense is appropriate? You know what I mean? Or is that left in the hands of the defender? You know what I mean? And when these defenders are men, you can't be surprised if some sort of testosterone-driven, ego-driven display is what you get, right? Not because men are unhinged or uncouth or whatever it is, but when you're talking about men defending their domain, you end up being their domain, almost their property. But when you have them defending their domain, there's certain interactions that you have that we see all the time, and sometimes a little aggression is a part of the mix. Whereas in the Cory Booker, Judge Ketanji Brown Jackson situation, it was a very polished response. So do we get to dictate which of those types of responses or any of the other responses that may come about on the spectrum of protect Black women, with respectably, or protect Black women with, violence? You know what I mean? Do we get to dictate as Black women what you get when you are saying y'all need to protect us and y'all need to stand up for us? You know what I mean? And we need to see more of that. You know what I mean? And so I feel like that's an interesting question for us to ponder on and for us to discuss in the comments below. Sound off in the comments below on anything that I have discussed this evening as it relates to the topic at hand, and comparing and contrasting the two instances of the senator and the judge versus the wife and the comedian. I do these videos so you're not out here alone in this sometimes crazy dating, living, loving world. If this is your first time here, I'd love to have you subscribe. And if you're an oldie but a goodie, a returning viewer, good looking out. And yeah, be sure to like, share, and subscribe. And I am going to hop in these comments as soon as this video is posted, because I would love to hear your feedback on this topic. If you want me to do a part 2 to this on a particular area of this video, let me know. I am more than happy to continue discussing it, but I definitely thought this was a perspective that we needed to share. And yeah, we'll see how this all turns out. At the time of this filming, Chris Rock, I think, issued an apology, and then Will Smith, I saw that and I read that personally, he issued an apology directly to Chris and the Academy and the producers of the show and his movie that he won the Best Leading Actor award for. He ended up winning the night, and did a speech and everything like that. So I'll leave a link to his speech and to a couple of the instances, and then also to the video of Cory Booker and Judge Ketanji, sharing that moment in front of the entire Senate hearing for her confirmation as the first Black African-American woman Supreme Court Justice, which should be confirmed any day now. So that's really exciting for us as well. But, continuing on in support of this Protect Black Women movement and Defend Black Women movement, these two instances have just happened recently, and I feel like we can compare and contrast them and really get the conversation going. So anyway, thanks for joining.